Music. I was once watching an IMAX. I think it was about outer space. Who remembers? Really interesting IMAXs. Really some fascinating idea. I'm not talking about the IMAX today because when it first came out, there was this 5-story screen, and it was about the ocean, about space, about animals. It was, Imam was looking to see what's called neflos allure. I mean, the wonders of God. Anyway, before it started, there was this advertisement for Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, and it was stunning because it was 5 stories high, you can imagine, and all of a sudden you're looking at that and you realize that it was in a huge stadium. There must have been 10,000, 30,000 people. There was Mick Jagger, who was singing there, and he was half dressed, it's classic, half naked or half dressed, either way you want to look at it. But, and then he had all the other guys, they had long hair, this was, and the music they were playing. And in the audience, and they showed the audience was thousands and thousands of mostly teenagers, and young adults. And they were going wild. They were jumping up and down. They were going wild, and so on, So I asked myself, this is incredible. What is this guy doing that so motivates everybody, that so gets them into the mood? I said, imagine if I could use this for Torah. I can give a shear to Yankee Stadium. Or the 50,000 people in Madison Square Garden. And imagine if I would say, well,
keep this.
This is the idea. This is the principle of this halakha and so on. And imagine if you saw everybody going wild, jumping up and down. Wow! He just said a tosfos. Wow! That's what I was thinking. I obviously. What's that?
She said you'd get satisfaction.
You didn't get Rolling Stones song. What's the name of the song?
I get no satisfaction.
So I was thinking, how do you get to imagine give him a shit hashkaf or so and tell me about who is God and so on. Everybody's jumping up and down and saying, wow, we can't wait to hear more of this. So that's why I wanted to ask myself, which is what I did. I asked myself and I analyzed, what is this guy doing, Mick Jagger, that is driving everybody crazy? And I thought about it and I realized what it is. You see. What is it? And I realized I can never duplicate what he does. When I realized the reason for it, not until Mashiach comes.
You will have your jacket on.
What?
You will have your jacket on.
Well, first of all, because I'm clothed. I have clothing on. That already is a turn off. Anyway. You look at these guys, they look like they just walked out of the jungle. It's like, Anyway. But that's not what does it. You know what it is? I realize this. Mankind has a dilemma. Most of mankind have removed the dilemma. It's no longer a dilemma. But initially it was, and I have a whole shir on this dilemma or the premise of Amalek based on this. But mankind, you know what a dilemma is? A dilemma is I have a conflict, A or B. And a dilemma is if I do A, I'm finished, and if I do B, I'm finished. So it's like what's called between the frying pan and the fire. You need to choose. Do you want the frying pan? Or do you want the fire? Either way, it's Gehenna. It's not even Gehenna, it's like obliteration. Mankind has a dilemma fundamentally. What is the dilemma? That we want to be free. Don't tell me what to do. Nobody wants to be told what to do. That's why most people have tremendous problems with working under a boss. They have to, because what are they going to do? They realize reality is what it is. They need the money, and this guy has the money, and he says, give me a service, and I'll give you the money. So reality awakens the person. But really, they'd love to throw their boss out the window. Not because they want to kill their boss, because they don't want their boss to tell them what to do. Nobody wants an authority over them. Number one. Number two, why don't people want an authority? Why? Why not? Because an authority tells you that you are inferior to me. Therefore, I am your authority. What taking orders from anybody is it makes you feel inferior. Because I'm taking orders from him. If I was such a hot shot, if I was so great, right, I should be giving him orders. I should have the money where I give him the orders. You know? This is the problem. Okay, so therefore, we do not want to be reminded of our deficiency, of our real state of inferiority. If you remember last week, we talked about, 2 weeks ago, Namlik Sufa, what that really is, the concept of shame. Shame is the emotion that you experience when you feel your vulnerability is exposed to you. When you're in contact with your vulnerability, you're shamed, and so on. Okay, that shame is a very important emotion. It is the emotion ultimately that connects with Namlik Sufa, which is the bit of shame, which we spoke about in the past, 2 weeks ago, whatever. Anyway, so therefore, I have a problem with authority. We all have a problem with authority, let's face it. Why? Because we don't want to feel inferior. We don't want to know that we're inferior. We want to think that we are God, right? And this guy's giving me orders, automatically makes me feel like, right, an inferior person, somebody who's subservient, and somebody who needs somebody else to help him out. We don't want that. So therefore, we are all trying to escape our feelings of inferiority. Very important idea. That's why we detest, we hate authority. Where do you see this? In the Torah. Because of the Mauritian. What did he say? What was the con? And that's really what it was. What was the con that the snake who represented the Satan, what did he tell Chava? Several things. But one of the things he told her was Visin Kelokim, you will be like God. Be like God? Where's the apple? Because he knew. He knew that the vulnerability of man is they want to be like God. Why do I want to be like God? Because then nobody's going to tell me what to do. Nobody tells God what to do. You know, he's the ultimate cause, and so on. So we want to be like God, because we don't want anybody to tell us what to do. We want to be completely independent. No limitations, no dependencies, and to be omniscient, able to do anything. This is our dilemma. So therefore the question is, we're always trying to, or rather the state is, we're always trying to avoid the fact that we are really inferior. We're always trying to avoid that, you see. Therefore, if we're trying to avoid that on one side, what do? So we obviously avoid that, you know, and if we have to go to work for a guy, never that's reality. But clearly, why do people go into entrepreneurships and so on in their own business? Of course they say because I want to make more money, which is true and all that, but really because they don't want to take orders from another guy. You know, hey, excuse me, it's 9 o'clock. You're 5 minutes late. I'm deducting. You know, nobody wants to hear this. You know, how dare you deduct? What do you mean? You're supposed to be at 9 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? In fact, you're supposed to be working at 9 o'clock, which really means you got to be here 8:45. I'm not getting paid at 8:45. Too bad. That's the job, and so on. We don't want this. We want to be our own boss. In fact, that's the biggest incentive where everybody has their own business. Okay.
Even though they work
now,
more.
what?
They work more.
They work more. Now we understand something. If most of our lives ultimately is trying to rationalize that we're not inferior, even though we take orders from our boss, from our wives, I hate to say this, it's present someone, but, you know, and women take orders from their husband, whatever it is, you know, and then kids boss you around too. I don't want to do this, you know. Everybody's trying to boss you around. So it's a constant stream of feelings of inferiority. We're not even conscious of it. It's so deep. Therefore, we avoid any situation in which we feel vulnerable if we can. But what about the other side? Just like we avoid feelings of vulnerability, of inferiority, we run toward anything that will tell us that we're somebody. We are somebody, we are significant, we are important people, and we don't have to take orders from anybody. Got it? 2 ways. Okay. So what do? What will do that for us? You know, all the different experiences that will somehow relay that message. one of the greatest experiences of all. In other words, essentially what are we trying to do? It's a Hebrew term for it. Prikas oil. We want to throw off the yoke of anybody's authority, called prikas oil. Porat means to undo, overthrow. Oil, a yoke. And we always want to do that. Like I say, why? Because the bottom line of that is it makes us feel inferior, or rather, more important, or more accurate, it reminds us of our inferior. Now, I can go a little deeper than that. It's probably worth it. And the question is, why are we so concerned if we see our inferiority? Right? We already have two levels. We want to avoid authority because we don't want to be convinced or reminded that we are inferior. But so what? Why can't I feel inferior? And the answer is because it connects or taps into the greatest fear that we have, which is death. Because if we are inferior, it means I don't have the ability, the competency to struggle and to live. We are always avoiding the feeling of death. Obviously, the Baruch put it in us. So, I once mentioned that, so I always get a kick out of, if everybody had a toggle switch on him, that he could end his life instantly without any pain, I think most of mankind would be dead by now. They just go, and he's gone. I think so, Why is that? Because nobody wants to feel suffering. Why is suffering a kapara? Ever wonder why? Why is it Yisurin? Why is that a kapara? You know why? It's connected to what I just said. Because when you sin, what are you really doing? You're telling God, take a walk. I want to do what I want to do. I don't do what you want to do. When a person sins, he's really going against the dictates of God. Yes? That's what he wants to do. What you're really saying is, I am somebody. What does Yisurin prove to you? You're nobody. Because if you're really somebody, you should be able to stop it. You ever notice going to a hospital room? Let's just put this guy in the ICU, right? There's a guy who's he's worth $500 million. And a lot of these guys they have such swelled heads, it's beyond belief, because the person is, in certain ways, he's omnipotent. Whatever money can buy, he can do, So when he's in the hospital, in the ICU, and he's got, 50 different tubes coming out of him, and he looks half dead, You ever notice that they're humble and they're meek? You ever notice the difference? Why? Because all of a sudden it becomes obvious to them that they're nobody. Because if you really were somebody, why not just take out all the tubes and walk away? You see. So suffering opposes the arrogance of sin. When you sin, you have a feeling that I'm somebody. When you suffer, it creates an experience in us of the exact opposite feeling and mood that we develop when we sinned. That's a kapara. A kapara simply means an undoing. And we undo the feeling of geus, or that we're somebody. You see, that's why suffering is a true kapara, because it's an undoing of the arrogance that a person feels when he defies God. Got it? Very important idea. That's the secret of suffering, by the way. Okay, what is this? Why must you make me suffer? Why is this a kapara? Because I experience pain? No. The fact that a person experiences pain means he wants to get rid of it. But the fact that he can't get rid of it humbles him, breaks him. What the Baruch wants to do is to break your geus. That's what he wants to do. It's a very important premise of what Yisurin really is, suffering. Why? Because remember, when a person sins, there's two things that goes on. There's the fact that you sinned, the fact that you rebelled, and the fact that you feel great about yourself. You see? So, a kapara is to undo all of it. Right? So, the most important thing to undo is what? Is the feeling you think you're somebody. The defiance. You want to undo that. You see? So, therefore, suffering breaks a person. That's why it's only half a kapara. You see? A person can be broken, but he still doesn't admit that God is everything. That's the next part of the kapara. In fact, I think it says a very interesting thing. That if somebody has Yisurin, And all of a sudden he says, to the Bernstein, his tefillah or whatever, he says, listen, I admit that I'm nothing and that you are everything. That admission itself is a kapora, and half of his sin will go away. Interesting. I once tried it and worked. Because there's no need to break you. You've admitted it. The whole point was to get you to say, ich bin a gonish, as they say in Yiddish, that I'm nobody. And now you're saying I am nobody. I admit it. And you are everything. So that admission itself, acknowledgement, is chatzi kapora. Interesting. It's good to know. Therefore, like I said, everybody's trying to perk oil. Everybody's trying to overthrow the yoke. Because they don't want to be reminded they're nobody. Because they don't want to feel the fear of death. Because if I'm a nobody, I can't survive. And if I can't survive, it's called... So the most basic of all human emotions, you see, all human needs, is the preservation of life. That's the most basic of all. And inferiority connects or taps into that feeling. And we all try to avoid that feeling. So these are the different ladders, the rungs of the ladder of what's going on in a person. Got it? Now, I didn't get to Mick Jagger yet. Okay? You need this introduction before I get to Jagger. I hope Mick Jagger doesn't, if he wants to listen to this, just to tell him why everybody, not because he's such a fabulous musician, but this to tell him what he's really tapping into. So all of a sudden everybody's seeking to do what? To feel like somebody. So therefore they will immediately connect to anything that will make them feel good about themselves. Now, you go into the stadium, right? And there's a guy, or a whole bunch of guys, half naked, right? And they're all with the guitars and they're all banging, jumping up. Now, these guys jumping up and down on the, there's one thing to clap a drum, and there's another thing to jump up and clap the drum. It's like, these guys are going wild, They go wild. It's almost like they're all on drugs. I mean, that's probably they are.
That's the point.
Anyway, and everybody in the audience is hearing this music. Now, this music isn't Beethoven. This isn't beautiful music that sets a mood or gets you to experience different things and so on. This music represents prikasoil. It's like, the singing is wild, What it does, it taps into your need to throw over your yoke. You see?
Order, no order.
No order, it's chaos. Okay. But it's more than just no order and no law, no sequence, and boundaries and so on. It's, the music puts you in the mood that I can do anything I want. Guys are jumping up and down. It taps into that need that I have to feel I'm somebody. I can overthrow anything, you see, and I am king. And that's what they do. That's why they are so successful. If humans didn't have to feel that way, I hope nobody would listen to Jagger or any of these groups. Well, a whole bunch of groups, the Beaches or something like that.
The Beach Boys.
Beach Boys.
The whole rock.
That shows you where I'm at.
It's a whole area of America.
Yeah, all these guys, what they say, the grave diggers, what do they call themselves? The dead, the grave dead.
Whoa.
It's
not so far removed from this, but anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, all these rocks group tap into the human need to overthrow authority, to be free, and therefore to feel good about themselves. That's all it is. That they can survive and flourish and be prosperous and do whatever they want. That's what it does. And therefore they can attract millions and millions of people. I mean, I once read that...
Generations.
It's beyond belief what they can attract. I once read that the Rolling Stones went on, I think, a couple of months tour, made $120 million. We look at this, we don't believe this, Well, $120 million. Imagine if Yeshiva made that. It's incredible. Why? Because everybody, all humans have the same need. To feel like somebody, not to feel threatened at all, you see. And therefore they will gravitate to anybody that can give them that feeling. And music, which is rock and roll, and so on, which is all wild, that gives them that feeling.
Mashiach.
Well, wait. So this is, as long as we try to deny what? Our vulnerability. Yes? We want to deny it. But when Mashiach comes, what happens? Right? What allows us to deny our vulnerability, really? And the answer is, what does the Mashiach do that is so unique? That is so, it's what's called a paradigm shift. He does something that's beyond anything we've ever seen. But there's a specific thing that he does. And that's really what he does. All he does, in the end. What does he do? Anybody know? What does the unique gift, I want to call it that the Mashiach does, that is what's called a game changer? That's the word for it. It's a game changer. What does he do? And how does he affect all the change, you see? Anybody know? And it's really a single idea.
That was Tikkun Olam, I thought.
That's a Hebrew term. What's Tikkun Olam? Yeah, you know. No.
Makes the Shem Hashem a reality.
Who?
He makes the Shem Hashem a reality in the world.
So what does he do?
Gilui.
Oh, which you're right, but I won't just say it, you know.
He reveals.
Oh, he reveals total reality. We live in a fog. You know, it's like we walk around and it's a fog out there. You walk in a fog, you see maybe 3 inches in front of your face, you know. And every once in a while, you ever see a fog, like all of a sudden some part lifts a little, but we're still in a fog, and then all of a sudden it covers it again. You know, we're walking around in a fog all our lives, you know, where most of reality is concealed. Just a couple of inches in front of our face. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Every once in a while, a little fog lifts here and so on. We don't. So therefore, what's our problem? What is the problem that mankind has ultimately? What is the disease of mankind? And the answer is ignorance. We are ignorant of reality. And that's why we think, you know, that's why we think we could do whatever we want, and so on. The Mashiach simply comes along and does what? Blows away the fog. So gets rid of the fog. So all of a sudden, we're stunned by a different reality. And we know it's real. It's not an illusion. So what the Mashiach fundamentally does is he uncovers, he reveals total reality. Actually, it's not even total reality, but a reality that we cannot even imagine. Because more reality will be revealed as you get higher and higher. In the Olam Haba, it's a reality that is not only revealed, it's different. But anyway, and therefore, what happens? The disease of mankind is cured. What's the cure? I'm no more ignorant. I know. You see, that's what it means. Kemo Eretz Dea. The world will be filled with the knowledge of God. But the key is not just what knowledge, God, but knowledge. Kimola Eretz Dea. That the world will be filled with knowledge of who? Of course, of the reality of God. As the waters covers the seabed. Can you imagine how much? There will be so much knowledge that, you know, it's like you wake up in the morning and say, I can't believe what I'm looking at. You know, there's certain things that can take away your breath. You know, even in this world, you know. For instance, you know, anybody ever go to Grand Canyon? Arizona? You walk over to the rim and you look down at I think it's 22 miles across and 1 mile down. And it's 250 miles long. That's a Grand Canyon. It takes your breath away. You can't believe you're looking at this. It is so astonishing. You can't believe, you know. There's other things that take away your breath. An eclipse, a total eclipse of the sun. All of a sudden, in broad daylight, the sun is gone. You see it being eaten up, and then there's a, you know, and you see the corona. People who have seen an eclipse say it's beyond, it is one of the greatest experiences, you know, and so on. There are a lot of great experiences. But the greatest experience of all is what's called the revelation of reality. That takes away ignorance. So, but in that taking away of ignorance, what do you come in contact with? You're no longer afraid of death. It's gone. There's no longer a fear of preservation of life. Correct? It's gone. Because once God is revealed, that's it. You know you're eternal. You know what I'm saying? Once you're zurcher to have that and so on.
So that's Tzadikim and Nisosim Nikum Chayim.
What?
Tzadikim and Nisosim are Nikum Chayim.
Yes. Yes, so on. But in any case, the main idea is that you're no longer afraid of death, and you're no longer afraid of death, so, you know, you can feel, but it's interesting, you don't even feel inferior. You see, once the concept of death is removed, or the concept of oblivion, obliteration, and annihilation is removed, and you realize that, hey, you're here forever because death isn't based on chance, it's based on a design. But if that being doesn't wish you dead, you'll never die. What's the problem here, you see? We're always afraid of our mortality because in some way we believe that death is chance. And anybody could die, so we're always afraid. You ever walk in a jungle? You go in the middle of Africa, and you're in a jungle, and you know that this jungle is inhabited by lions, hyenas, and all the real vicious predators, So the only reason why you could survive is because you haven't met them yet. You see? You haven't met them yet. So you're hoping you won't meet them. But once you meet them, it's over with. Your dinner. Their dinner. You see? But what are you experiencing? A constant state of anxiety. Or fear, actually. Because at any given moment, you can meet them and it's over with. How do you protect yourself? You see? We walk in a jungle. We are afraid every second of the day. We try to not feel it, but we have the feeling that death is chancy. Any minute, a guy can cross the street, hit by a car, and it's over with. Or, guy gets up in the morning, and he's got a tremendous business deal going on where he's going to cash in $1 million and so on. Right? Gets up in the morning, he feels fabulous and so on. By 10 o'clock in the morning, he's dead. Just a massive coronary. Nobody knows what it is. It's like, out of the clear blue. You see? So therefore, we're always afraid. But in the Messianic Mashiach, there's no fear of death. Because there's no death. The Malach HaMovis is gone. Not only that, not only is no fear of death, but God is visible in whatever way he's visible, and he's the one who plans the death. So, if you're still there, you're looking at the Baruch Shem, he's not going to kill you, and it's over with. So you already have a feeling death is gone, you don't feel bad, and more than that, you now feel differently. The experience that you will feel in Yemais HaMashiach, you feel as if you're somebody. Because then all the love that the Baruch Shem has for humanity, all the importance, the love comes out. You see. Right now the Baruch Shem's ahava is concealed. He does it. He's doing it he's always, but we don't see the display of his ahava. But in that day, you not only see the reality, you experience the reality of God and how he feels about you. And you know that if God loves you, that's it. You've just won the bonanza, And therefore, even if you're inferior, so what? If God loves you, you realize who God is, you realize who you are, and then he loves you. There's no more fear of inferiority, and so on, and therefore there's no desire for prikasayim. That's why the Ramchal says that in those days everybody will be doing mitzvahs. Everybody. But not out of bechira, but out of the fact that automatically you feel that you want to do the mitzvah because you want to worship God. So, you see. So therefore, in the end, ultimately, what these guys connect to, ultimately, is everybody needs to feel like there's somebody that they can compete, that they are competent in living, and so on. And the music does it. The whole presentation on the stage, the music jumping up and down, they look like they violate all the laws of mankind, all the mores and the morals and so on. And everybody wants to do that. That's why you notice in a concert, how do you know this is true? On the fact that it's true. If you go to a concert and somebody's playing Beethoven, let's assume you go to the Met, not the Met, but you go to an opera, whatever, I'm not saying, but you go to the New York Philharmonic, you're sitting there and they're playing, Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, which is incredible. Anyway, and you listen, nobody's jumping out of their seats. You notice that? You notice? You notice jumping up and saying, wow, keep it going. Nobody's doing that. You notice they're all sitting, and if you make noise, shh, shh. So why is it when you go to a concert, they're all manners, courtesy, and they're all attending, right, to the beautiful music? You go to a concert of Jagger, they're going crazy. Why? Because Jagger taps into the precast oil, whereas Beethoven doesn't. Beethoven's music is aesthetic, it's beautiful. It puts you in a meditative mood, you know. Doesn't attract the precast oil, doesn't hit that, so therefore you don't jump. But the music of Jagger hits the precast oil. It hits the desire to rebel, revolt, you see? And therefore, when you feel that, what do? You revolt. Your physical language is revolution.
So
It is rebellion. Wait, it is rebellion. In other words, you automatically express language physically, you see? And a guy who jumps up and down and screaming at the top of his lungs, you know, and so on, that is a physical language that I've done it. I've now thrown away all law, order, and boundaries, anything. It's over with. That's the difference. You see? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
The
doesn't it?
entire 60s was the entire culture, from movies, the influence of black culture coming from slavery, trying to find an expression of their personhood, even though under oppression,
Yeah.
also influenced that type of countercultural.
Yes, yes. There's a very important idea you should know. The fundamental structure of the emotions of man starts from the bottom, called preservation of life. Then it moves up a rung where you feel inferior because you never know if you'll survive the next day. So, and then it moves up where you try to avoid that inferiority, right? Anything that makes you feel inferior. And then you move up to actually experience that which will allow you to feel like somebody superior. At 4 rungs here, you see, each one feeding into the other.
So the Jewish music that
What?
imitates that would be wrong.
Yeah, but you know, it's anything that has that kind of a beat.
Sheer Saladin.
You know, I want to tell you something. There's also a difference not only in the music, but also in the words. If you listen to the words of the rock and roll, you know, it's like everything that's osa now becomes mutter. Right, that's what it is. You know, most of these things are love songs. I mean, you know, where you can do anything you want. You go in and you want. I'm not even talking about rap music. I mean, that's like, forget about it. That's beyond
It's all
belief.
3.
What?
It's all 3.
Yeah, it's like, it's just beyond cursing. The nibble pit and the cursing is just beyond belief, you know? And the romance and the sex and all that. It's incredible, you know? But even these guys, so Jewish music at least doesn't have a vocabulary. It's hard to feel precast oil when they're telling you, "Ono Hashem Moshiach, no." You know, please God, save me. It's hard to feel that, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you're saying, you know, all these all of a sudden. When you take a posuk out of Tehillim, you know, and it talks about the Barsham and Vekas and all that, you know, it's hard to feel that way, even if it's to a rock beat, you know. But the music does, in a certain sense, give you. Music is an incredible mood developer. Some music will put you into a trance, or it'll transcend you to another dimension. And then there's music that will just make you feel that you're somebody, and you can just overthrow all authority, all rules and regulations and laws. And rock and roll is designed to do that.
You say that inferiority comes from survival, but how are we going to feel about our wives giving us orders, Bimos Mashiach? I mean, inferiority is not just survival, there's more to it.
No, the idea is nobody will give anybody orders.
What's going to happen?
Because, look, I want to tell you something, you know, let's assume you go to a palace, you have an audience with the king, right? And you're at the king, and this is the king, and he's in his malchus, in his garments, you see the entourage, the 1,000 people that pay homage to the king, and you're this incredible palace, right? And your wife is with you. You think at that moment she's going to tell, Ruvain, was tust du? You should say, Ruvain, come on, talk louder. No.
No, but structure of society is going to remain a certain...
No,
a certain
no. You see, what everybody doesn't understand, you know, there's the Kufa Mashiach ben Yosef and ben David. In the Kufa Mashiach ben Yosef, you still have the world order, you see. But in the Kufa ben David, right, then everything changes. Because when Mashiach ben David arrives, death, the Satan, is destroyed. Whatever that means. He's cancelled out, neutralized. It's over with, you know. In the presence of the king, I mean, you will be aware of the presence of the Barsham The way you walk in a beautiful sunny day. Are you aware of the sun? Of course. It's all over the place. It's pervasive. Nobody gives anybody orders. There's no orders anymore. Why? Because you all of a sudden are in the presence of the king. Only his thoughts, Ratzon counts. Nobody else's Ratzon counts. When you're in a total, in a total revelation of total reality, right? Then it's that what is the total reality? That the only thing that matters is God, and does he like me or not? Everything else is irrelevant. When you realize that the Baruch Hashem is part of your existence, or you exist through him, then who cares what anybody else says? You know, it's like groupies trying to follow a celebrity. That don't interest anybody else. They're completely nichna, they're completely subservient to the desire of celebrities. I mean, I always get a kick out of the fact that in Twitter or Facebook, whatever, these celebrities have
The tens of millions.
Followers.
millions of people follow what this nobody is doing. Who is this guy? Because he knows how to act, so therefore he's larger than life. That's what it is, you know? I was getting a kick out of the fact that somebody hits a ball, baseball, you know? And everybody said, he's a hero. You know, I remember there was one kid that, there was one of the baseball players, whatever, that was caught doing something which is illegal, whatever, and what's on. So what was the complaint? Because now kids won't have a hero to worship. That was a complaint because, you know, now they don't have a hero because he's the greatest batter or pitcher, whatever. I said to me, Gewalt Geshin, because this guy knows how to hit a bat. He's a nobody. So he has a skill. He can hit a ball, and he makes $30 million. I mean, I'm not even going into that, you know, and that this is what shows what society is, that they pay their baseball players $30 million, 5-year contract, and they pay the professors, you know, $100 a week or something like that. I mean, it just shows you what society's at, what they value. But they were bothered by the fact that now you can't use this guy as a hero. Hero? What is this, you know? This is what this world is all about. Where the heroes are celebrities, movie actors, celebrities, right? They're sports figures. You know what I'm saying? You know, they're rock and roll guys. These are the heroes of mankind. So where's mankind at if this is their heroes? What happened to the value system? But in the Moshe Mashiach, who cares about these guys? You realize that the only thing that counts, the only thing, right, is does God love you or not? His will is the only thing that counts. So, what do you care what your wife says? It's not that your wife is not going to say anything because she herself will be awed by the fact that it's only God that counts. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's his Ratzon. Who cares what my husband does? You see, all that, you know, mankind is cured of the greatest disease of mankind, which is ignorance. That's what the Mashiach uniquely does, and therefore everything changes. It's a game changer. Everything changes, you see. And therefore, lo and behold, imagine, in the time of the Mashiach, they're going to beg, I mean, I can imagine, please give a Shia Derech Hashem. Please. Why? Because what happens is when you talk Torah in those days, and how many guys are going to know Torah, right? Right? Then you bring down incredible shefa that you feel, right? Imagine you experience drugs. You'll go crazy. You'll do anything to get more drugs. But what happens if the drug is now the shefa, the incredible spiritual feeling that elevates you in a way that it's almost infinite, right? And the only way you can get it is by listening to a Shia and Ramchal. What do you think is going to happen?
I'll bring the Ramchal over.
Nobody, he'd also be here, the Ramchal. To all the Gedolim. But if you add up all the Gedolim, we're talking about 7 billion people. There's enough to go around, audiences, right? Each guy's going to have what? 1 million people begging him. Not asking him, begging him, give a Shia. Because we want to tap into the ruchnius of that Shia. That's what they're going to do. I know it's hard to believe, you know. But any guy who can give a Shia, who's been into Torah, is going to give a Shia to millions of people. You know, forget about Yankee Stadium. You know what I'm saying? Yankee Stadium cannot hold the people. Why? Because you got the greatest drug of all, which is ruchnius. You have the direct access to shefa, to spiritual experience that nothing could rival. So why wouldn't anybody listen to you? It's the same concept. Just think of a drug. Everybody will steal and kill and murder. You know what, to get that drug? To get that experience? What happens if you offer a drug that makes a guy feel unbelievable? You know? Forget about the amount of money you could raise. Everybody wants it. And what happens if the only way to get that is by going to a shiur of a Ben Torah, right? Who sacrificed so much of his life to sit and learn. He didn't make that great of a living. He had to sacrifice so much. And he's the dealer. You know the dealer? He's the dealer. And all these guys are the addicts. That's the exact relationship between a shiur. The guy giving the shiur is the dealer, and everybody in the audience is the addicts. Except the deal that he gives out is ruchnius. And the addicts are those guys who need the ruchnius, because that's the only thing that matters anymore. Nothing else matters. Who cares? You see. That's why the Mashiach will do it. There's no more these guys. These guys all are batal mavutal. These guys are like chaff in the wind, where the wind just blows them away and they're gone. Now, I realize it's hard to comprehend that, because our problem is we live in a reality where every shtus, every nonsense, absurdity, ridiculous thing is elevated, aggrandized, magnified, and lauded. That's where we live. So, you know, you look at me and say, what, are you crazy? I can't believe such a reality. But that's what will happen. That's what will happen. You see. And that's the power. The power is that the guy who can say a shiur, the rabbin, will bring down a shefa, which is incomprehensible, which is billions of times greater than any drug you can ever experience. And like I say, the guy giving the shiur is the dealer, and everybody listening is the addicts. Just think of that.
No police.
What?
No police around. No cops.
What are you pleased for? God
That's
is
what I
there.
say.
I mean, in those days, a Jew will be able to sit down, close his eyes, and access prophecy without any preparation. In the old days, in order to access prophecy, which is an experience of the Shekhinah itself that influenced you, in those days you had to prepare for it. You had to go to yeshiva, a B'nai Nevi'im. It's called a prophet's yeshiva. Even though probably in those days the yeshiva weren't making any prophets. But it's called a prophet's yeshiva, right? You got to prepare yourself, years of arduous work. You know, in the entire Mashiach, it'll be all over, where you just close your eyes and there's the Shekhinah talking to you. You know, and you're talking to it. It's unbelievable. That's how easy it will be to access Ruchnius. And the only ones who will really have it are the Jews, because they went through thousands of years of suffering to do the mitzvahs, to learn the Torah, and to ultimately rectify creation. And all the other peoples, Goyim, who did not become Jewish, okay, will have to go to a Jew to experience that. And that's what's going to happen. That's why, 10 Goyim for one Jew. And they'll be like groupies, and the Jews will be these celebrities, you know. It's like the Baruch says in the Novi, which is very, very, very beautiful whenever you see it, but the Baruch says that, forget about what he will do to the Goyim for what they did to the Jews, but the Baruch saying, and all the nations will see that the Jews are my people, and I dwell in their midst. In the midst of the Jews, not by the Goyim, because of what they did. And what does it mean to the Shekhinah dwells in our midst? Unbelievable. It means we have access to the Shefa. And everybody will want that. Everybody. Because that's the only thing that counts. The only thing that counts. Everything is irrelevant.
That's a quick question.
By all means. Have I covered the topic? Right?
Comprehensively.
Comprehensively, yeah. And I thought I would do it in 5 minutes. But,
Yeah. No,
you appreciate, because you have to go through the full levels of what mankind needs and what to avoid, or what to have, and so on. Now you know why Mick Jagger is so successful. Because right now, everybody's ignorant. Everybody wants to break the yoke. They want to be somebody. They want to feel like they can rebel and revolt. And Jagger and all these guys do
LA
it.
riots.
What?
The LA riots. L.A. riots.
with the blacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Workers.
LA riots is very interesting. Why it happened. Very interesting. I'll scoff at the LA riots. If I told you, it would be shocking. Why it really happened and so on. That's for another year. What the opinions of the LA riots were. For the next one. But anyway,
It's mind-boggling because the English just sends these messages constantly. He sends earthquakes, he sends a Sandy, he sends all these things to the world.
Katrina.
He sends...
Nobody wakes up. No, but it's clear what Katrina was. I told you, remember?
Yeah.
A marble.
Which, yeah.
A mini marble. And look at Sandy. What bothers me, and I'm very worried, is that it's getting worse. Katrina wiped out a city, you know, and Sandy wiped out the East Coast. Billions of dollars. It's $100 billion, you know, and I'm afraid of the next thing. The next thing is a massive earthquake that will destroy, think about that.
They said they're waiting for the one that's going to split California in half.
Yeah, San Andreas Fault.
Along the fault, it's going to move part of California into the ocean.
Yeah. And the new beach will be Arizona. So there's, it's how many people are in that California? It's not a joke. But I'm afraid that the U.S. has no idea of what's about to happen. They have no idea. All those shaitan fools that govern the United States have no idea what they're playing with. You want to mock the homosexuality? You are playing that's a bad move. But again, it's because everybody thinks there's somebody. All those politicians think they're God, or God's elect, one or the other, They have no idea that just because they represent, I always get a kick out of the fact of governments, why is it a person who rebels, who revolts against God, why does he think that maybe God will punish him? And for some reason the government doesn't think God will punish them. Why? Because they think they represent, that there's somebody special. They're nobodies. Who are they? And certainly in a democracy it's clear they represent the United States. They represent the people of the United States. If they all do whatever they want. There's no such thing as democracy. Really? They don't represent us. Yeah, right. They represent themselves. And they're constantly trying to preserve their power. A representation of democracy stinks. The only real democracy was in Athens, where everybody voted. And even then, like Jefferson said, tyranny of democracy. What happens if everybody votes to kill you? They kill you. Well, democratic? What's the problem here? You see, democracy doesn't make it legal, doesn't even make it moral. It's just that it's the will of the people. That's all it means, as opposed to the will of one person. So government thinks because they represent the people that they can do whatever they want and get away with it. What are they fooling around with, Look at Saddam. They also had a government. We know what happened to Saddam. Mount Baker was probably an earthquake, together with a volcano, and so on and so forth. They don't exist anymore. And I'm afraid of the United States because in many ways we have fools that represent us. And I say it publicly, fools. Because they don't realize who they're playing around with. This is the lesson of mankind. And, like Egypt, Pharaoh, he's an idiot, the guy. He was closer to Adam Rishon than we are. He realized what, they had a marble. The marble was right around the time of Egyptian history. What they're playing around with, Yet he decided to defy God.
He made the cheshbon that Hashem will make a thing, he won't wipe it out with water.
Yeah, but God laughed at that cheshbon. I want, the shvur was, I won't wipe out the world. Right. But I can wipe out one nation. That's exactly what it did. Kriyas Yamsuf is a mini marble. Same thing over and over again. And mankind refuses to get the lesson. And that's what I'm tremendously afraid of. It's that the Baruch will. I want to tell you something. There's a volcano in the Canary Islands. In many ways, this Earth can die. It's what's planet killers. There's an asteroid. If an asteroid is, I think the killer asteroid, I think it has to be 10 miles wide. I think
we had a good one then in Russia.
Yeah, Tunguska. 1908. Yes.
No. We have just recently.
Oh yeah,
the thing that exploded in the middle of the air that shows that there was just like a mini little nothing.
If an asteroid, I think 10 miles is the killer. If an asteroid going at 3,000 miles an hour, the amount of energy in that asteroid is beyond belief. Energy means the amount of push, right? If that hits the ocean, it will create a tidal wave, at least a mile high, if not several miles high. As you know, and it'll flood the United States up to the Ohio Valley. That means the ocean goes, because it's like a bathtub. If you go like that on a bathtub, what happens? Creates a wave. The ocean is like a bathtub. All you need is a zetz, right? So if an asteroid 10 miles, I think 10 miles or 15 miles, if it hit the ocean, it could decimate the planet. If it hit the ground, and not the ocean, right, it would raise a cloud of dust that would cover the planet for years, which means no sunlight enters. That's the end of vegetation. I'm just saying, and then that's only one death killer, and many of them. One of them is a gamma ray, outburst that comes from a star, and is headed our way. It will incinerate the planet in minutes or whatever. Incinerate the whole planet, because that by a gamma ray, by a nova, whatever, and so on.
What's the Canary Islands?
So the Canary Islands, if I once read, there's some incredibly large volcanoes. You see, and if they explode, they will move an unbelievable amount of earth into the ocean, because they're right near the ocean, right? And that's the clock,
Tsunami.
patch.
Like tsunamis.
Yeah, so it will create a tsunami. I think the tsunami would be like a mile high, right? That will take it from West Africa, because that's where the Canary Islands are, West Africa, right? It'll take about 5 hours, like 1,000 miles an hour, whatever. It'll hit the East Coast and destroy the entire East Coast. And nobody knows when that will fall, because everybody knows that Canary Island volcano is going to explode someday. And if it does, that's the end of the America. Most of America is the East Coast. I hate to say it, it's not Iowa. It's the East Coast to a much greater extent than it is the West Coast, and even the West Coast. So I'm just saying, we don't have to look for asteroids. It's about mamish on this planet, and so on and so forth. Who are they playing around with? Playing around with the Banshee? I don't believe the Banshee was going to wipe out mankind. He's not going to do that, or else Mashiach is going to come to a whole bunch of dead people, and so on. But what he can do, which he demonstrated by Sandy, he can wipe out, how many people died by Sandy?
Dozens.
Yeah, and they were lucky. Most of the damage was property damage. Billions of dollars of property damage. But the Russian changed his mind. He says, okay, I'm taking away. I'll wipe out. In China, every once in a while you hear an earthquake. There was once, I think, an earthquake in China, I forgot, many, many years ago. It killed almost 1 million people. 1 million people died because of an earthquake, They're playing around and they don't realize. Because ultimately speaking, they're fools. And they have, in many ways, corrupt moral systems, And this is the problem, that we are represented by people that after a while they become interested in themselves. Self-interest governs what they do. And therefore, they don't look at what's morally right, what is just, and so on. They play around and just take a look at what's going on at Benghazi. What the IRS is, there's a whole scandal and so on. What's guys doing? They're crazy, man. How are you playing around with this? They don't think there's a din v'cheshbon. They do not think that they're accountable. They think they're immune from consequences.
Is this saying Yidden should get more involved in politics? Because I heard somewhere the Chafetz
It won't help.
If he heard something happen, a disaster.
Because it's Jews, it won't help. It's not going to help. You kick it.
It's a sign to us. He would fast.
No, what it is a sign is that we have to learn Torah, do the mitzvahs, and pray that the Banshee have Rahmanas on the Bria, that he doesn't destroy it. That's our job, Politics, but the problem is people who enter politics, even if they enter it ideally, because they're idealists, fine. After a couple of months, forget about it. They all become interested in one thing. How do I exercise power, money, and fame? And most of all, how do I preserve my power? Because I want to be around for the next. So all they're concerned about is the next election. Look at Benghazi. Everybody knows 4 people died. They were murdered. They didn't die. They were murdered. Because if a person...
They weren't even murdered, they were tortured.
However they die, It's like Gedalyahu. I know, Gedalyahu ben Achikam, we have Tzon Gedalia. So somebody told him that somebody wants to kill him. So he was not makabelet. But his mistake was, you're not makabel, it's one thing, because you don't want to be makabel lashon hara, you don't want to believe lashon hara. But you have to suspect maybe it's true, and you need to take precautions. He didn't. So because he didn't do that, he died, the guy killed him, and several other people. So the Torah holds him guilty of murder, because he could have prevented it. You know, we think, well, he didn't do it. No, he was the victim. Too bad. But you could have prevented it. These politicians, you know who I mean, they could have prevented that, and so on. They didn't. Why? Because of political reasons? Because they didn't want to show that the Muslims, that Al-Qaeda is still strong, or whatever their motives were. 4 people were murdered, and they were not just murdered, tortured, or ambassadors, and so on. Which means that they're guilty of ritzicha. They don't even know that God will account them as murderers. Forget about the fact that you didn't govern right. Sorry, you didn't do your job, so you didn't govern right. No, they're held as murders. If somebody can prevent the murder, he's responsible. He's held as if he's murdered. Yeah, maybe the oil should be a little less, but you see that all the time. Remember when, what's his name, by Yoshua ben Nun, somebody stole one of the things from what was his name? Achan stole something, he said, don't take any loot, spoils, and he did, and Russian blamed the whole Klal Yisrael.
Chotei Yisrael.
Yeah, Chotei Yisrael, wow. And by the Chet HaEkel, there's only 3,000 people that actually did this. The Erev Rav. So the question is, okay, where's the culpability? Why? So you have to say, because they didn't prevent them, or whatever, the Bershom's got all this cheshbonis. But in the end, they're nichlal, in the Chet. So all these people, because they refuse to do it, I can go through on and on what this country has become, where justice is not done anymore. There's enormous amounts of prosecutorial abuse, where the main thing is to score, to get a guy in jail. What do you mean? You want justice, not what's legal? You know what I'm saying? What's going on here? And nobody cares. Nobody stops it. Where is the Justice Department? How do you allow prosecutors to abuse? Where are you guys? I don't care. You should know, everybody is going to have a din v'cheshbon. Everybody. On every single thing they did. And they are going to sincerely regret what they did. But it's too late. The problem is they don't think they're accountable. Because they're not Yiras Shamayim. There's no accountability. This is the problem. And therefore they think they can do whatever they want and get away with it. They will learn their lesson. The problem is, what's the real problem? Is that we allow that. The U.S. citizens, how do you vote a guy that you know is corrupt or whatever? What are you doing? That's why America will suffer. Because in the end, America's guilty. What are you putting guys in? If one prosecutor, I use that because it's terrible, will go after a guy and destroy him illegally, right? America's guilty. Because what are you doing? We should throw Eric Holder out. Because he's responsible for all the guns to the Mexicans. No, of course not. There's no Yiras Shamayim. They all think they're not accountable. My fear is therefore the Bonshim will say, look, these guys will get, but America is guilty. Therefore the Bonshim is going to destroy different parts of America. Katrina was like a tea party. I have no idea what the Bonshim could do. If he really wants to, and he's done it in the past. I think what's really saving America is that everybody, Jews learn Torah. So in that sense, America is a tremendous place of chesed. So that's Megan. But like everything, everything, every day, there's a day of reckoning, and that's the end of it.
I heard a pshat that said that Avimelech,
Anyway.
and Avram Avinu, he said, "Rakin Yiras Hashem V'Makom Hazeh." So I heard a pshat, and then that he was trying to make a society based on justice.
Yeah. I won't
And
say that. I won't say that. I care that shit.
How come Obama allows Obama to be president?
Because Obama has a certain mission. There's certain things that he must do. But that doesn't mean he has to ignore potential evil or whatever. He can't ignore that. There's a reason why Russia wants him to be the leader. Is that on? Still gone? Mm-hmm. This is the problem. People think that they become arrogant, they can do whatever they want. But, okay, you have a mission. That doesn't mean you could violate what's just. That's what they do.
Next week.
Oh, next week, we really should begin at 10:30.